Ace Podcast.
Reality, my pit, is Punch Road at 5 p.m. and dinner parties for the right people are making a whole lot of bread. Those are your own words, you bastard.
Is reality screwing the neighbours and murdering the unborn?
You prick. You were so damn hot for Frida, you pushed Mark and me together. And then you bellow like a wounded tomcat when the whole grotty plan backfires in your face.
It wasn't murder. Why didn't you tell me right away?
It was none of your business.
You think I'd agree to having it destroyed?
Nothing was destroyed.
You said it cried. Those were your words.
Oh, stop it! You pig! I'd rather sleep with Mark's dog than sleep with you again.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Blame me instead of yourself.
I didn't want it.
Me? Me, I love kids.
Shit, I despise you.
Blood and Black Rum Podcast presents Long Weekend. Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from newsdeadworld.net. I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
He's here every time.
Yeah.
Couldn't have the show without him. And today, we're talking about When Nature Attacks film. I like saying it like that, the genre. It's not, I mean, in general, you wouldn't say a When Nature Attacks film, but kind of grammatically incorrect. But I like calling it that because it's fun.
The inspiration of early Fox TV shows.
That's right. Yeah, like they used to do those in the 90s. What were some of the ones like? It was just like
When Animals
Attack,
yeah.
and they had the specials on. Like you don't want to miss next week's When Animals Attack 2. I love that. Actually, though, that was a fun time. That was I forgot about that until now when you said that, but that was a fun time. I'll admit I was tuning in for those. Like, fuck, that guy just got bit by an alligator.
Doesn't it make you miss like real TV and?
Yeah, it does, but at the same time, that's why we have Reddit, and that's why we have the internet and Live Leak, so that you can watch as a man gets chomped down by an alligator. I read an article about that, actually. There's a guy it was, one of those guys that was, like, doing something stupid, and, he got eaten by an alligator. And then, obviously, there was video of it, because they were filming it at the time. And so, like, that guy's entire death was, like, filmed and broadcast to millions of people who just now watch it and say, what an asshole that guy was. But at the same time, they wrote an article about, like, how your family deals with that after. Like, now you're a spectacle on the internet. In a pretty tragic scenario. I mean, yeah, you were being an idiot, but at the same time, you still died and got eaten by a crocodile or an alligator, so that's kind of shitty. So it's kind of funny, yeah, but When Animals Attack is a pretty fun genre. You would put, like, that is kind of stretching the boundary of, like, what horror really is, because when you think about it, sometimes those creature features aren't, I wouldn't consider them technically horror. They're more of like, sometimes more of like a realistic, like, this could potentially happen scenario.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how it's handled.
Yeah. Like, would you consider Jaws a horror film in the same sense as like Halloween or?
Yeah.
You do. You put it in the same category.
Jaws is a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla is not.
Right. That's a kaiju film.
I know, but it's also a creature feature.
Yeah.
I mean, like, whereas like Swamp Thing, sci-fi, but it's also a horror film. So I mean, I think it all depends on the tone and the mood of the film.
Agree. I think that definitely Jaws is right there because of like all the suspense that it builds and stuff. It's not like a really factual encounter with like a shark. It's like, well, there's a shark out there. We're gonna study it, and it ate a person, but we're gonna study it and hunt it down.
I can't say you can't call Jaws not a horror film just because of a generation of people it's scared the living hell out of from going into the water.
And basically all of those like monster films that you watch too are technically creatures, just the same as a shark. We just know about sharks. Boogeymen monsters could be out there. We don't know about them. So I guess I consider like animal attack films horror films. But I know that some people they don't have that same mindset. Like, oh, that's not really a horror film. It's like, well, yeah, kind of it. I think so anyway. Just want to get your take on it. Like, we're talking today about Long Weekend, the 1978 Aussie picture, an Ozploitation film, sort of. And in that one, it's about a couple who goes off on like a vacation to this secluded beach area in Australia, and there they encounter a whole bunch of wild animals. And that's really the gist of the film throughout most of it, is like there's a lot of wild animals around, and they're kind of like wary of what's happening around them. So in this case, do you consider Long Weekend a horror film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's leans heavier towards thriller.
Yep.
But it's also horror in the way.
Yeah.
It's horror. It's a good mix of being like a suspenseful thriller and how it builds up and paces things, and how it's a very slow build.
Yep. Which we'll talk about a lot more in depth as we get into.
But also at the same time, with like the stings and how they kind of music
synth
stings
scores
and score and the way they kind of present things to you, it's very much in vein of a horror film too. So it's a good mix. And when I was reading online, one of the films that we reviewed before on the podcast came out around the same time was Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yep.
It's good that they brought that, when I was reading, brought that up, because I do see some, characteristics between the two and how things are paced and how they're, and how they, handle both the suspense and horror aspect of the films.
Absolutely. I mean, have you seen Liam Neeson's The Grey?
No, I have wanted to, though.
It's a good film, but, like, I think it's interesting to bring it up as a juxtaposition as, like, that's a film all about him being out in the wilderness with a bunch of wolves. But at the same time, I would definitely not consider that a horror film, because the scenarios, the aspects of it just do not mesh with like how a horror film is structured and paced. In that, I would say that's more of like an action/adventure film, just because of all of the things that happen, falling off trees and cliffs and stuff like that. Less so like a horror film where wolves are attacking and like, it's a survival against the wolves. It's more so survival of man, rather than the actual.
Well, when I saw
itself.
the trailers for The Grey, I didn't think it was a horror film.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I think it's interesting sometimes to bring up those ideas of like where genre comes together and where like where you come up with and you say, well, no, this is definitely not that type of film. Like I guess I would call The Grey a creature. No. I actually wouldn't. I was gonna say I would, but then now thinking about it, I don't think so. It's definitely a when animals attack film, though. I would say that, but I wouldn't say it's like a creature feature. In the same sense that I do consider Long Weekend as a sort of creature feature. It's not just one animal. There's many.
It's nature.
That's right. It's nature. Yeah, and we'll talk about that too. But it's also got a sort of supernatural feel to it, which may or may not appeal to certain people like you, who you were not super thrilled with the actual aspect of there being some sort of supernatural hold on the characters, or like a nature having power over these people. But it's in there, so we'll talk about it a little bit later. Before we do that, though, before we get into Long Weekend and the beers that we're drinking, I want to take a moment to do a little bit of a tribute in honor of one of my fellow horror bloggers who passed away not too long ago from a battle with cancer. It's a very sad story. He had been he'd had it for quite a while, and really, was always upbeat about it, very, very much outspoken about his cancer and what was going on in his life. Really great horror blogger, really influential to everyone. So that was James Harris. He was Doc Terror, as his nickname. He ran docterror.com. He also did Horror Sexy as well, which I had helped write for at one point. And he did, tons of other stuff like podcasting, and just a great person within the horror community. So just wanted to pay our respects to James Harris and his family, and we're wishing them all the best. And really, really sad story. And honestly, we're gonna miss him. So here's to you, Doc Terror, raising a beer right now to you, and thanks for everything that you did for the horror community. And just so you know, there's going to be a lot of different fundraisers and things for his family. I know Vinegar Syndrome right now, which is a horror Blu-ray company releasing lots of great horror films. They're doing a fundraiser. It's a silent auction, so you can write into them and you put in a bid. They're giving away all of their new releases from May through the end of the year that you get for your silent auction bid. It's over $1,000 worth of films and merchandise. So you can send that off to them. You put in your silent bid, and whoever's the highest bidder will win that. And all of that money goes to the Harris family. And we also did a little poster commemorating Doc Terror, James Harris. So that's in the works as well. So keep an eye out for that. And there's also going to be a huge contest giveaway, raffle style, where a lot of people donated to it, and they're giving away a lot of cool stuff. So keep an eye out for that on Facebook and everything if you follow a lot of the horror bloggers in the sphere. So that's that. Let's get into some beer talk. Today you brought a beer that we've never featured, a brand that we've never featured on the podcast.
Yeah. It's a beer I never had, brand that I've never had.
You've never had them before. I've had one before, one or two. I think I've had two because I know I've had the Purple Haze, and I know I've had their IPA. Don't remember exactly what that one is called, but when you hear Purple Haze, you think Abita, and that's exactly what we have today. But we don't have the Purple Haze or anything like that. You brought the Creole Cream Ale.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it around before. Never had a chance to try it.
Neither have I. That's why I got it.
Yeah.
As I was telling you, I went to one of the stores I usually don't go to get beer, but I do go there sometimes because they do have a pretty good selection of stuff that some other beer stores around here don't have. And originally I was going to get something from Cooperstown Brewer, which will definitely be featured on here sometime in the near future because we are both baseball fans as well. Go Yankees.
That's right.
So, and all their beer is baseball themed because obviously the Hall of Fame is in Cooperstown, New York.
Yep.
Which
we've been to.
Been there, I think.
Had to go in there basically because it was pouring when we were there one time.
Yeah. Well, it was. We still wanted to go.
Yeah, we wanted to go, but I mean, it made it even easier to go to at that point.
But which if you've never been to Cooperstown, I would suggest going to Cooperstown.
Cool, quaint town.
Not just because, even if you don't like baseball.
No, you don't. Have to like
baseball. If you love baseball, it's going to be something to go to because it's got the Hall of Fame.
I mean, that's everything around there is very much baseball themed. Yeah. You've got like Louisville Slugger
store,
baseball bat stores and stuff like that. You got Doubleday Field, which is really cool. They play a lot of games on there.
Yeah. But it's one of my favorite towns just too because it's so, like you said, it's quaint, it's nice.
It's got a nice cafe there, I remember.
They it's got that great late 19th century feel with all like the brick buildings and it's what our town was.
Yeah, it should be if it didn't become run down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining if they didn't have the Hall of Fame there, it would have suffered the same fate as all the of all the cities.
And Amagang now. Yeah. Because Amagang's out there too.
Which is the big they're probably their most well-known brewery out there, because there are quite a few out in Cooperstown.
Yeah.
Cooperstown being one of them, which we have reviewed Amagang on here before, and we've said plenty of times we've gone to. I have never been there for a brewery tour, but we've been there several times for concerts. But Cooperstown Brewery's out there too, and all their beers got some kind of baseball theme, like Backyard IPA or Old Slugger Porter.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about getting one of those, but then I saw out of the corner of my eye when I was getting ready to grab one, that there was a cream ale by Abita. And I decided to go with that because, as you all know by now, cream ale is probably one of my favorite styles of beers out there. And I think it's a very rarely done beer, which is a shame, because it's a great style and it's a unique American style. So I decided to pick that 6-pack up instead. And this is a very good beer.
Yeah, surprisingly, well, I guess not surprisingly, because all of Abita's beers that I've had have been pretty good.
And like I said, I've never had one. I do know, I do have an admiration for them, because I do remember when Budweiser went, like, a couple of years ago, it's like 3 or 4 years ago, when they went on that, like, for this,
craft beers.
Like, slamming craft beer, they were going on, like, for their Super Bowl ads, saying, like, we don't make pumpkin, pear, peach beer, we make American beer. And then Abita shortly after that was like, funny, we make that beer and people seem to like it. And it's funny, and they made that in response too, because recently at that time too, they were just bought out by Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
So that was like, to me, that was like hilarious. It's like, yeah, you took Anheuser-Busch's money and now they basically tell them to go fuck themselves. But
I like this beer quite a bit.
It's unique for a cream ale.
It is.
It's definitely got a noticeably more hoppier taste to it than most of your cream ales. Most cream ales are more malty and more crisp. This one, as you said, I said it's got like a more hoppy characteristic, but as you described it, it's got definitely a drier finish.
Yeah, what makes this the Creole cream ale is because they add Louisiana grown Blanca Isabel purple rice, and that gives it that dryness to the end of it. And that does come out. Like I was joking. Generally I don't associate like, this hop is from this region so much, or like this malt is from this area. I guess my taste buds just aren't that good to do that. But in this case with like the Creole cream ale, I definitely think that Louisiana style purple rice that they're adding to it is definitely giving it that dryness towards the end of the
Well, we're in the perfect comparison for like a difference. Like a Jenny cream ale, the adjunct in that's corn, just like obviously with regular Jenny, the adjunct in it's corn. So with that, you definitely get, instead of a drier taste, a sweeter. Yeah, like a corn sweetness to it. So you're right. That you can tell when you're drinking this that it definitely has a difference to it than, say, like a Jenny cream ale.
Yeah, no, I like that dryness though. I think it helps distinguish this one, this cream ale. So it's really good. I definitely get it again. You got it in a 6-pack.
Yeah, I don't know if they have it in 12
I don't know
packs.
if they do or not either.
It's the only one actually that they had there too. So
I've never seen it before, so it's really interesting. I try to look for new stuff like that because really we don't. Besides the Purple Haze and some like a couple other Abita beers, we don't like get a lot of those around here. Anyway, like I don't really ever see a pack of Abitas.
I've never seen a 12-pack. I've only seen 6-packs. I've seen the Purple Haze, this, and I think it was like that pumpkin, like that weird beer that they made fun of, and that's all I've seen. So
yeah,
and I think that was that World of Beer when that was still a thing before that got closed down for no reason.
Yeah, I would definitely check out this and more Abita beers. We just don't have many around here to choose from. Purple Haze is also really good. It's a raspberry beer. And that's really, that only appeals to you if you really like those types of like fruit beers. But I think it's a really good beer as well. So check it out. Try to find this Creole cream ale. Now I'm imagining that this is probably out for the spring/summer season.
It is
because of the crispness, and they even make it a point to say how good it would be for like a warm day, crisp, refreshing beer. So I'm imagining it's out probably for like spring summer, but
if it is,
I don't really know.
But if it is a staple beer, then props to them, and that's
right,
and that's a great thing.
Yeah. The other thing that you had today, I had previously, because I picked up the Saranac Summer Pack, which is out now.
We're 3 weeks in the spring, folks, and the summer pack's right. As I was telling Ryan, where I got this beer, the place, they had stacks upon stacks of Sam Adams Porch Rocker out already. Mm-hmm. Which, as much as I like the Porch Rocker...
I don't want to touch that right now.
No, especially now that we're going to have a week straight of rain.
Yeah. A little shandy today.
50 and, a week of rain, yeah. So.
Yeah, you know what I'd be doing? I'd be sitting by my pellet stove drinking a shandy. It just doesn't... I don't know. It just doesn't mesh well together, I guess, right now.
It seems like Fresh as Hell's has only been out for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and actually, I like that beer. But
I did not care.
I like it. I don't know.
It tasted like a weakened Boston lager with none of that orange blossom that they said.
But the one that I got, so I got a Saranac summer pack, and they actually got some good stuff in there. Obviously, they have their Gen 4 IPA, which it seems like they're throwing that into everything now.
It's either that or the Legacy.
Yep. They've also got their Belgian style beer, which I think is pretty good. They have there's regular summer pills, which I'm drinking right now. I think it's good. This is really refreshing. Nice Pilsner that is not really that common for Saranac to make a Pilsner. So
I think we reviewed it actually last year.
I believe we probably did.
I think we said we prefer it more than Sam's.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Yep. And then it's also got the Tropical IPA. Tropical Storm IPA, which I think is very good. Normally, you don't get, I don't get super excited for an IPA in a pack because they're generally very similar. But in this case, it's a good beer. It's different enough to make it stand out from the rest of the IPAs. I think what makes it tropical, does it have mango in it?
Mango, guava, and
yep.
Citrus.
Yeah. I think that mango and guava really comes out. Wherein sometimes there's other brands that make tropical IPAs. One of them being Sierra Nevada, which I had recently at the Beer Fest. That one did not have a standout mango flavor to it. Whereas with Saranac's, this one really does, the mango does come out. There's very clearly that citrusy, fruity flavor to this.
Somewhat a little bit pineapple-y too.
Yeah,
so
that really comes out and makes that tropically. Whereas when I had Sierra Nevadas and I was already, probably 10 beers in at that point, but I did not really notice that tropical flavor that I was expecting from it. So comparing it to that, I really think that this Tropical Storm IPA is one of Saranac's better beers that they put out recently.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. I would definitely get the whole 12-pack of this. Mm-hmm. It's again, as we've said 1,000 times before on the podcast, it's brewers have done so much with IPAs. It's becoming really hard to reinvent the wheel on it, and I almost think it's like just pick something different and move on. But I think with this, they did a great job. It definitely discerned itself from, like, the hops in it. Like, it's definitely got it is a very hoppy beer.
Yep.
But the hops in it aren't so, like, overwhelmingly, like, say, like a West Coast hop style and citrusy style that would dominate and overpower the other citrus flavors and fruit flavors that they're trying to get in there. So I think if you're going to make this a style of beer like this, you kind of have to tone the hops citrus, taste back so you can get those fruit citrus tastes even more. So otherwise, it's just going to be all just blended and you're not going to be like, it tastes just like a West Coast IPA.
And that was our complaint with Sierra Nevada when they did the sidecar.
Yeah, the orange IPA.
Yeah, which was an orange IPA, is you really didn't get that orangey flavor from it because that West Coast hop style was just way overpowering. So I think that Saranac has really figured out the blend of how to make sure that fruitiness, the mango flavor comes out rather than just overpowering with hops and just making sure that like all the hops are in there and overloading the palate. So I think it's really good. Check that out because it's in the summer pack right now. It's probably out wherever you are. I'm sure the summer packs are prominently displayed on all shelves now. So
getting you raring to go.
That's right.
By July, we'll have Oktoberfest out when it's 90 and you don't even want to even think about it.
Yeah. I know. All right. You ready to do some long weekend?
No, because that means I gotta work.
I know, right? We aren't even close to a long weekend, but the next one is going to be Memorial Day weekend for us, for me.
Don't even remind
Not for you, but for me. So, but anyway, so long weekend, 1978 Australian horror film, written by the same man who did Razorback, which is a movie about a killer boar. So very much in the same style. Everett DeRoche did both of those, wrote both of those.
Now, when I think about it, I can only think of one other Australian film I've seen.
Okay.
Mad Max.
Okay.
The Mad Max franchise.
Well,
off the top of my head, because obviously Mel Gibson's Australian and George Miller, Australian. So I mean, the Mad Max. I mean, maybe I have seen other Australian films.
I'm sure you have,
but I just when you think of, I mean, and to be fair, when you think of film, it's not.
Australia isn't the one that you.
It's not
run to, but I mean, it was a bigger part of the 70s again with Ozploitation. Just like it was kind of the thing at the time. Probably more so in that decade,
but in
the 80s than any time else. There was these, all of these countries getting into that sort of exploitation. Well, I mean,
style. I would not consider Long Weekend an exploitation film.
It's not really, but
two, I mean, the 70s is a very unique period in film. It's to me, it's probably the pinnacle of film. You probably got some of the best films ever made. I mean, if you think about it too, and this is showing kind of like my bias here, but Francis Ford Coppola probably made 4 of the greatest films of all time, all in the 70s. Mm-hmm. Godfather Part 2, The Conversation, and Apocalypse Now. And then, Scorsese, this. Yeah. And not only that, but I mean, I think overall the decade just.
It was a big decade, yeah, absolutely.
You had a level of freedom.
It was like the Renaissance.
You're exactly right, because it's films that got made then will never see the light of day today.
True.
Just wouldn't.
They either wouldn't be funded or
because they're too out there.
Yeah.
But again, you think about it, and it's like,
well, in Long Weekend is really a film that is out there. I don't know that we would. I mean, obviously there was a remake of it.
But that's because it's got a cachet to it already.
So right, exactly. Yeah. But I don't know that we would see a film like this film now. One of the main reasons is that Long Weekend is a very slow film. It is a slow burn.
And it's an hour and a half.
Uh-huh.
It's not a long film, but it is a slow burn.
It's super slow.
It uses its time.
It does. I'll go over the plot of it real quick before we really get into that. But it basically follows this couple who are going out on a camping trip into where they think is a well-known beach that they're going to stay at. It's kind of a getaway for both of them. You got Peter and Marcia, who are kind of struggling in their relationship.
Marcia or Marcia?
No, it's Marcia. He clearly says Marcia in it. Yeah, it's
sometimes it sounds like he said Marcia.
Yeah, sometimes it does, but he does say Marcia. You have both of them who are really kind of struggling, and throughout the film, you kind of get these hints that okay, something happened wherein something happened to Marcia, and they even mention what if I had died, stuff like that. So there's something going on, and there's always this reference to sound, really like crying. So they go out on this kind of long weekend together on the beach. They're the only ones there. They're alone, not really having a great time because Marcia really doesn't want to be there. Peter really does. He clearly likes surfing. He likes hunting. drinking a lot of beer out on the beach, frolicking in the sand. And so really, Long Weekend, for a lot of the running time, focuses specifically on both Peter and Marcia. There's no one else in this film, really. Besides a couple of extras that you see just briefly, very, very quickly, there's no one else in this film. So really, it's up to Peter, who's played by John Hargreaves, and Marcia, Brienne Behetz.
Which, by the way, the opening credits make it look like
John Hargreaves and Brienne Behetz
is one person,
the same person.
Because they don't split between the two, so it looks like your lead in this is John Hargreaves, Brienne Behetz. Like, that's, oof.
That's a long name. Yeah, they don't do a good job of separating that.
Who else is in this? The Duke of Wellington?
Yeah. But anyway, Peter and Marcia, they're really, that's really the focus of this film for a long portion of it. And then obviously you get those kinds of cut-ins, suspenseful moments where obviously there's something out in the wilderness, but really there's, the direction on this by Colin Eggleston, it's very minimal. Really short bursts of things that happen. So there's a sound, and that's it for that part of the scene. That's the suspenseful part of it. There's a sound, maybe a synth sting, and off you go on yet another tangent with Peter and Marcia, who are arguing pretty much the entire time. So it's a slow film. I absolutely will agree, but I gotta say up front, I really like this film. I recommended it for the podcast. It's good to start out spring with something like this, with an animals attack film. So I saw
you get you second guessing your camping plans for the summer.
Yeah, that's right. So I saw this when Synapse Films released it on Blu-ray last year, and I loved it when I saw it. Watched it at night by myself, and I definitely found some of the scenes pretty eerie, especially watching. So let's talk about that. The slow burn of the film. I mean, do you think it's fair within the context of this film that it is so slow, that the direction is just, kind of plodding?
Yeah, no, I find it to be fine. I think if you made it faster paced, it wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. Because everything that happens in this film is a very slow action until the very end. Where everything that happens, the last 5 minutes is sudden. So everything else that happens is just building and building and building upon the tension between the characters themselves. So if you try to throw in some kind of fast-paced action or something, it just wouldn't work.
Right.
The whole premise, and to me what makes the film work, is the idea of that. Basically, you could say it is, when animals attack film. Mm-hmm. You could also look at it as it's a just relationship battle between these two people. And when the animals attack thing is just in the background, it's kind of forethought and consequence of, them being shitbags of human beings and being shitty to themselves is what causes them to do the stupid things that may have nature attack them. Mm-hmm. If they weren't like that, they wouldn't probably run into that problem. So you could say the evil that's supposed to be portrayed in this film is them themselves and not their surroundings. And
yeah, I mean, I think that with what Eggleston as director and also Everett DeRoche as the writer is trying to do here with this slow pace is really create these characters, to give them some depth, because I think we've all been there with someone who you're together for a long time in maybe a stressful situation. In this case, they're alone together on a beach, kind of just surviving out in the elements, and you're really grating on each other. You're really, both of you are kind of being shits to each other. And you kind of realize it. And obviously in Long Weekend, they're not always constantly fighting. There's some scenes where they rectify, their relationship. They have some good times, But then again, there's always that time where you spent so long together, you're kind of out there, things are stressful, things are kind of spooky, obviously because you're alone in the wilderness, and you're just getting on each other's nerves. And I think for a long period of time, Long Weekend builds on that. It's like saying, look, there's these two people and they're growing apart even as we watch them. This is really supposed to be a vacation for them to come together. Even though Peter realizes that Marcia hates going out in the wilderness. So there's that kind of dichotomy too of like, even when you first meet these characters, you really don't like them. Peter,
no, there's nothing likable about them.
Normally in that scenario, you're thinking like, well, this movie's not very good because like I don't like any of these. You know, these characters aren't very likable.
It's a very stereotypical horror thing to do, where it's like, you know, obviously in a Friday the 13th movie, you know, by like the 6th one, everyone's fucking unlikable. So you just be like, kill him off, Jason. Let's go. But in this, there's a reason.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a method to making them unlikable, and obviously they become even more unlikable as you watch the film because, sure, there's kind of that, you know, Peter is obviously somewhat of an asshole, mansplaining everything and driving off in his convertible, cutting people off on the throughway in the beginning of the film. But also, you know, you have Marcia, who is not perfect either. She is not willing to give this weekend a chance whatsoever. Doesn't want to do it point blank.
Total cunt.
Yeah, I mean, she just really is not open to this at all. And obviously she is going through some emotional issues, as you learn later when they actually bring up explicitly the fact that she had an abortion. But at the same time, like, there's just she's not even trying at that point. So, as the film goes on, you really start to dislike both of them more and more. I think even at the beginning of the film, you're a little bit more connected to Marcia because of the way Eggleston portrays Peter. You get that initial moment at the beginning of the film where he's obviously just an asshole.
He's hopping his, jump. You know, he's got a sports car and stuff open. He's jumping over and cutting the guy off in traffic.
Yeah,
and he's got his gun. And he takes it out and points at her. Looking through the scope and puts it away. Yeah, no.
He's clearly unlikable. I mean, you're not really rooting for him at that point anyway.
But then, 10 minutes later on, the car drive, you're not rooting for her either. Because, again, she's a total bitch. She's just like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? She's clearly asleep, and he turns, the radio off. And she's like, I was listening to that.
Yep.
It's like...
But it's a perfect representation of, a relationship that is kind of soured over time. And you just, now, everything that you do, every little thing is just getting on the other person's nerves. And you're, watching this dissolution of their relationship, even when this is a horror film where they're kind of just also targeted by the wild. But I think the other thing that's really important about Long Weekend, besides their relationship specifically, is how we see them interact with nature throughout the film. So as, even in the beginning of the film when Peter drives off in his convertible, what's the shot that we see? Birds being disturbed because of his motor when he's revving the engine. We also see him chuck a beer bottle into the water. Just kind of pop the top, drink a little bit, chuck it in the water. Then drunken asshole.
And shoot it, yeah.
Shooting his gun off at whatever. There's definitely that thematic resonance here of they're not treating nature well. Even in the beginning where he kind of just runs over a kangaroo and I guess I hit it, and that's it.
To be fair, though...
What do you do in that situation?
No, to be fair... I've hit a deer before. Mm-hmm. I've been in a car when you hit a deer. It's not like... When you hit a deer, it's not like... As soon as you hit the deer, you get out of your car going oh, is the deer okay? You're like, oh, my fucking...
True. That's true.
and it's not to, be like an asshole, but it's not like you're like, first off, you're like, is everything, you're like, am I okay? Is like, if someone's in the car, are they okay? Then you're like, okay, great. Now let's see what the damage is. And after that, then you're going to be like, hey, where's the deer going?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, your first reaction is never to think about the wounded animal, which is kind of interesting, because if you hit a person, you probably would be like, fuck that person.
Well, there's laws for that.
There's manslaughter laws for that. But,
there's no venison slaughter.
I'm not saying that every atrocity done to animals in this film is, recognized
but it's obviously an accident.
Mm-hmm. And
even in this film, when he hits the kangaroo, it's an accident. Granted, it's kind of made funny by the fact that the kangaroo he hits is a pretty damn decent sized kangaroo, but he hits it like it's
yeah,
like it's not like
a
skunk,
like a skunk or like an orange cone or something that just bounces off the car
and slide, and then somebody else hits the damn thing.
Yep.
Did nature track down that other person?
Who knows? Well, I think that it's more so, like I said, I don't think like every scenario is meant to say like, well, this is building up on his tally of like when nature comes back and says, well, you fucked up too many times, and no, but I think like as you go along, you kind of see. I think it's just like putting that frame of mind there, like, okay, well, he hit a kangaroo, yeah, unavoidable accident, but then he threw a bottle into the water. Not necessary. And then he shot a bunch of birds just for the fun of it while he's drunk. And then he started shooting dugong in the water just because. So, I mean, I think that all starts to add up to the point where it kind of comes to a head when Marcia has the eagle egg. And she chucks it at the tree. I mean, I think that's when all hell breaks loose, to be honest with you. But it's also symbolic. And I like that about the film, is that this isn't just a film that is like, well, let's put two people in the woods and, see what happens when a bunch of animals attack them. It's a brooding film. It's an unhappy film. It's very much like dark and melancholy. You're not supposed to feel good or even, you're not really even having fun with the film so much as you're like, it's kind of dark and pitiful, miserable. And I don't know, I like that. I'm drawn to that.
Like running over that crab and listening to it go.
Well, in this case, in the 70s, very lax animal rights laws here. There's one film that I recently watched, recently released by Severin Films, called Wild Beasts. Clearly depicts rats being set on fire. At the end of the film, no animals were harmed in the making of this film. It was very lax times for what you could do on camera with animals. Apparently rats are not considered animals at that point, but they are very clearly set on fire in that film. So yes, and it's not like Long Weekend is not it's not like outrageous, not like Cannibal Holocaust by any means. Not even like Wild Beasts where rats are set on fire. There's only one crab that's like actually run over by a car. Who's to say that it even was killed? I don't know. I don't think that kangaroo scene was real, but
no.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
No, if they fucking hit that, no, they would have left a pretty good dent in that.
No, I'm saying not the car itself when the car hits the kangaroo, but the second part where it's run over again.
No, I'm pretty sure that would have.
Hard to say, but like I said, 70s were a relaxed time for what you could do with animals. Now today.
Lax time period with what you could do on film.
Now today you're not going to get away with that, but back then, yeah, you could.
Oh God, no! Before you had that one film like about that recently came out about.
The dogs.
Yeah,
A Dog's Life or whatever that was called. Yeah.
You had PETA.
Yeah.
Screaming about the dog was afraid to jump in, but the traitor threw it into the water anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
You know. So, yeah. So this would not fly.
No, it would not. No. But yeah, I mean, I think you definitely have like those nature-driven issues that are brought up like more and more. They kind of stack on top of each other as the film goes through. Then you also see what kind of assholes they are to each other. Where it culminates in that scene that we have featured at the beginning of the podcast episode, along with the inappropriate use of Holiday Road, wherein they're talking about the abortion, and it's pretty much, back and forth bickering and some very disturbing remarks made about each person. They're not nice to each other. And, again, it kind of is that motivation for what happens to, I mean, you're not rooting for them in the sense that you hope that they get eaten by animals, but at the same time, you're not really upset about it either. So we talked a little bit earlier about how the film has sort of a supernatural aspect to it. Do you see that, and do you like it?
I see it a little bit, but no, I think it's tacked on.
You mean tacked on in that people can see it in it, but it's not necessarily what Everett DeRoche had in mind when he wrote the screenplay? Or did he mean for it to have a supernatural feeling to it? And
I can't say which way what the writer's intent was. Maybe I'm just being a fucking idiot on it. I don't exactly know if the supernatural... I mean, like, I can see where there'd be hints of it, but to me, that's not the... Like, the whole nature aspect of it isn't the interesting part of the film. The interesting part for me is between Peter and Marcia and their conflict. And I think, just the whole... What happens to them is just a result of their conflict and their personalities.
True.
I think that's,
like karmic.
Yeah.
Almost.
Which I do think that's intended.
Yeah.
But I think that's more interesting then. Like the whole fucking eagle coming and attacking them because they have an eagle egg and all the other shitty stuff they've done. It's comedic because it's just funny because Peter gets attacked by a fucking eagle, getting bit and scratched, and she's just looking at him like, oh, a fucking eagle's attacking him. And then he shoots the eagle away, and he's like, the eagle just attacked me.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they move on to the next scene. But it's it's funny, but I think that's a weaker part of the film. You don't need that.
Why?
Because that's literally shoving in your face.
True.
Oh, you're being.
It's probably
you were being an asshole to nature by littering and hitting a kangaroo and shooting an innocent dugong because you thought it was a shark. I think that weakens it because I think more if you just played on the suspense of their fear and their fear and anger, then you can have just have nature itself just be a backdrop to it that serves them they die in the wilderness because they're stupid, impetuous, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
True.
And their situation's not helped by the fact that they're stupid, impetuous, in conflict with one another. It makes sense for Marcia to meet the fate that she meets just without having an eagle swoop down. And in the same thing with Peter's fate too. So I don't think kind of tacking on this and remember kids, only you can prevent forest fires and only you can stop littering. And I think I think it's that it's intended, but I think it hampers the film. And I think it hampers it more by the fact that the idea of nature's getting their karma against these people for being shitty and being shitty towards nature, towards themselves and towards nature, and it being a supernatural act of nature taking, the fight against them. I think it's tacked on. I don't think it's necessary, and I think it makes the film slightly corny and weaker for it. Not a lot, because I think the tension that you get in the character building that you get from Peter and Marcia throughout the entire film is good enough But I'm saying I think the film would be even better if it got rid of that element and just kind of relied more on being a thriller, character study, and the horror aspect coming from the situation that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Like because it's a real situation. I don't know how many people listening have ever gone camping and actual camping, not fucking taking an RV out and all that, but doing actual camping, and then that makes their situation and what they run into that much more impactful because it's more something you can relate to.
Well, I gotta admit that my question was a little bit baiting, because I do feel like Long Weekend has it both ways. I do think that in some ways DeRoche wants you to view the film and just think, yes, these were two people who really didn't know what they were doing out in the wild. Even though Peter is kind of well-versed in going, camping and stuff like that, they're still in an area, in a situation they don't know very well. See, Australian wilderness, it's even if you know it well, it still can be dangerous, especially how they show you. This isn't just like some tourist attraction. This is a place that no one really goes to. So even the animals themselves are not.
I was saying, because when they stop at like the local gas station,
they don't know it.
Which by the way, why did they have that fucking close up on that guy's eyes?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, just peering out at them.
Probably because are we supposed to gain from that? Like, ooh, maybe it's a slasher.
Probably, yeah,
it's a slasher film.
Probably to do a sort of slasher style in there. Yeah,
but it makes no sense because you see him for that 3 minutes and that's it, and it's like unnecessary. It's like, oh, are we supposed to think this is gonna be like a slasher film? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna kill all the kids on on Australian Crystal Lake Beach.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I said, I think that, you can view this as just, these people don't know what they're doing. They got out in the wilderness, and even everything that happens to them is still realistically plausible. Like, the eagle attacking, maybe it would. If you had its egg, maybe it would attack. Who knows? Everything else that happens, maybe they're just really bad at directions, so they keep going back around in the camp area where they are with the arrows on the trees, and they just don't realize that they're going around in circles. That could absolutely happen, getting off track and everything like that. The dugong in the water making screeching noises, certainly not out of place. If you've ever gone camping before and you spent the night there, there's always weird sounds that you hear out in the night. That in this case, I think the dugong scene and the screeching and the crying is actually a really eerie scene. Not because specifically it's scary, but if you've experienced it before, which I have, if you go even out to the lake or something, you hear a loon at night. It's very eerie and it's spooky because you're out in the middle of nowhere. You just kind of hear that crying sound,
or just around here coyotes,
just around here coyotes. It's an eerie experience. So I think it really resonates in that scenario. At the same time, though, you can also argue that there is that supernatural aspect, and I think DeRoche wants that too. I think he wants that sort of feeling that in some way there is that nature attacking and specifically choosing this couple because of the way they've been acting. I don't think it's necessarily a weakness. I think it's just an extra added theme to the film. Just
imagine if Jaws, the shark was motivated by supernatural.
Well, in Jaws though, it is kind of not supernatural, I guess I wouldn't say, but certainly not super realistic either.
No, it's not.
There's
but
definitely a phenomena at play in that.
No, but there is, but it's not supernatural. Something. It's just. It's in our minds, that's a plausible idea of because we're naturally, prone to look at sharks and be like, that's stay away from that.
Don't mess with that.
Yeah.
But I guess
so that makes sense. So the idea of a man-eating shark that's been terrorizing a town because it lives in the local waters, it's not really supernatural. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's not like out of the realm.
A possibility.
A possibility.
Yeah, I see that.
Like,
but neither is anything that happens in Long Weekend. None of it is out of the realm of possibility. The only thing that really makes me come to the conclusion that the supernatural element was just a little bit intended is because of the dugong. Because the dugong
is moving
throughout the film. It creeps up the beach, which I think is a really effective sequence. I think that coming back to that each time, that dugong, is really effective. Although you could also blame it on the loss of sanity of our characters too. Because they're not really in their right minds at that point. They're very agitated and anxious with each other, and also this scenario. So there's that multiple aspect to it. Like, do we believe our characters here that they're actually seeing this dugong move up the beach, or is it really in their heads that it was dead all along? I think that's like an interesting concept. Plus the ethereal crying that is always coming from like the sea. I think it's very interesting in that it's also symbolic. It's metaphorical. It's a reference to the baby crying after the abortion. Is that in her head? Is that in their heads that they hear?
No,
that?
I'm not saying that's not interesting. I agree. That's a great point. I just don't think you need that like tinge of supernatural. Make it more about them and their own and their own psychosis.
But I gotta disagree, because I think that is about them by adding those elements to it. I think that is, because like I said, you never really know if it's. I mean, obviously it would be a shared psychosis if they're both hearing that sound, but you don't know that either. You don't specifically know that. It really seems like Marcia is the one that's hearing the sound, and it's not really Peter that's hearing it that much
until at the end.
So you never really know. I mean, I think it really does leave some interesting questions, and really brings that symbolicism home of like this trip out is very much symbolic of that abortion that occurred, and their inability to overcome it. Like they cannot get over it. And that's a lot of what happens in their relationship too. First of all, Marcia is unable to overcome the fact that she had the abortion, even though she didn't have to have it. She made the decision on her own to have it after cheating on her husband, Peter. And because Peter was never consulted, he can't get over it either, because he may have wanted the baby. So it's that wall that they can't cross over. And I think that them going to this beach, it just kind of reiterates that. Plus you have the whole ending where there's the accidental shooting of Marcia, which was kind of foreshadowed at the beginning of the film when when the spear gun goes off accidentally. She's accidentally killed when Peter mistakenly fires off his spear gun into the dark, not knowing what's there, thinking it's probably an animal or something coming to attack him. You always have, there's always that feeling that you can't shake, that maybe that was intentional. Maybe you did know. There's, again, there's that mental moment, the psychology of it too, wherein you have to question, like, do we believe our characters? Do we believe everything that we're being shown? I think that all works in Long Weekend's favor, because you can watch this film and you could say nothing really happened. You know what I mean? You could watch
it was the Long Weekend.
Yeah, an hour and 37 minutes and be like, well, that was a long movie, but nothing happened. But at the same time, a lot does happen. And you kind of don't realize that until you really step back and take a look at what happens and how they build the psychology of this. What's interesting to me is that I saw DeRoche's Razorback before I saw Long Weekend. But Razorback was released in 1984, so it's actually a newer film than Long Weekend. And I did not like Razorback. It has a very similar style, very slowly paced. The boar isn't really the main focus of the film. It's other aspects of it. So I am curious to see if I go back and watch Razorback, will I like it a lot more now that I kind of appreciate Long Weekend for the film that it is, rather than trying to lump it into just a straight horror film. It's very interesting. Anything else you want to talk about? Actually, I want to talk a little bit about the soundtrack. which I think is, we kind of try to bring that up in every episode, but I think that soundtrack is really interesting. It's got a kind of simplistic synth element to it.
It's a very quiet film for the most part. The only time it really uses any sort of soundtrack is just for musical stings and for building up to not scares, but like false scares. Like you're supposed to be thinking oh, what's gonna happen? And
right.
oh, it's just Peter walking in.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's very minimalistic. But I will say it works very well. I think the use of stings, the synth stings throughout the film is very good. It's not overused, and it sets the kind of the right tone and the right frame of mind for what's going on within the scene. So
I think that too. The false stings are really important because
again, almost all the film is just building and building the tension, and
yeah.
So
it's really Eggleston as a director, putting these ideas into your head and then not capitalizing on them.
Yeah.
It's you're getting that false suspense wherein finally at the end of the film you're kind of not ready for it to be so fast paced at the end where there's that whole pretty much the last 15 minutes or so is all the chase sequence wherein Marcia is killed after driving off with the Nissan Jeep, and Peter's left alone at the camp and kind of, nervous and scared, running away from a lot of different animals that are, around at that time. So I think it works in that way because it throws off your expectations of what's going to happen. A lot of those things go nowhere.
Yeah.
Even really short moments where there's just one note played on the synth, just a kind of, and that's it. Very quick in and out moments. But I think it works really well. And in some cases, it might seem like it's almost unfinished with the soundtrack, but I think here they use it to its advantage. So.
No, I think in this one, less is more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you had it scored throughout, it would ruin the mood and the tension. I think from using the score only when you really need to build either tension or a false sense of tension is what
when that works the best.
What makes it good. Obviously if they're just sitting down having breakfast and talking and you got some kind of whimsical score in the background, it's going to kill.
It kind of kills the mood a little bit.
It's gonna, so I think in this one, silence is best.
Yeah.
And they use discretion, and I applaud them for it because it works fantastically.
So what do you think about this film? Do you think a lot of viewers would appreciate this film, or is this kind of one that is only for a certain mindset, people who are really open to slower burns or horror films that don't really have the scares that you expect?
I would recommend this film for mainly. Before horror fans, I would recommend this for thriller fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I think it's got the way it's paced, the way it's set up as a slow burn. I think it works more as a thriller than a horror film. So I think if you if you're into thrillers and you like to see slow burns and character development, you will like this film. And just out of a curiosity for the sake of horror, I would recommend it too. Just because of how unique it is and how, especially today with how the horror genre is so fixated on either, something supernatural with a paranormal activity or a slasher film. This is something totally unique and within kind of both genres, thriller and horror. So I would recommend it to fans of those two genres, but if you're just a casual fan of horror or
contemporary fans of horror.
I wouldn't recommend. Just because I think people just will not have the patience for it.
I believe that. I think that's true. Like I said, I don't think it would be a film that would really work today. I don't see that many fans of theatrical horror like that's being released right now. There's just not the patience for this to work itself up to where it ends in the conclusion. I don't think that there would be enough patience to get there. I mean, with that said, that conclusion is a very surprising and out of the blue moment that I think works really well in this case, because Long Weekend has worked so hard to kind of defy your expectations that at the end you're kind of just not really knowing what's going to happen until that surprise truck scene comes out of nowhere, just blasts right through our main character. But yeah, I don't. This is not a film for everyone. I don't see this film having a huge fan base, to be honest with you. I don't think it's like a cult classic in the sense that like a lot of people will
eventually gravitate
right,
to it.
Yeah, I don't think
and realize its brilliance,
Yeah, I don't think that like even Synapse probably had a huge number of sales with Long Weekend. It's just not. It doesn't have.
Well, again, it doesn't help itself either that, like I said, it's an Australian film, and like
true. Yeah.
And as I said, outside of the Mad Max franchise, it's not like again, people are poking around to like, oh, what kind of Australian films can I watch? That alone, is a kind of a knock, just because again, it's. I mean, what was the release like? Did it get even released in America at the time when it came out, or was it?
It's hard to say. I believe it did, but they're saying it had a 1979 release in the USA, so it probably did get released in the US. But I don't know how much fanfare or anything like that it had.
But I mean, it's definitely a film. Like even though you call it When an Animal Attacks film, I wouldn't even say it's that.
Yeah,
because that's very minimal and it's a crucial part, but it's a small part.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's more of just a psychological character thriller drama.
True, it is. Yeah.
And the tension that comes from it, and then everything else that happens. But
yeah.
So I mean. Even though you're right in defining it the way you define it, I'd still say it's a very loose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not in the same sense as like Piranha.
Yeah, where it's obviously or Anaconda.
Yeah, or something like that.
Or Eight-Legged Freaks.
Yeah.
Arachnophobia.
Nothing like that.
Ooh, that's now I think about it.
What? Arachnophobia.
You know who's in that?
John Goodman.
You know who else is in that?
No.
Jeff Daniels.
Is he really? Can't remember that, but
I'm pretty sure Jeff Daniels is in that.
I don't know. So out of 10 dugongs, what would you give Long Weekend?
I'd give it a 7.5.
7.5? He is in it, by the way.
Told you.
Yep.
Yeah. He's the main star, yeah.
That's right.
John Goodman's just he's not even,
Yeah, he's just like a repairman or something.
He's the exterminator.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie.
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
But getting off track of that. But yeah, no, I'd give it a 7.5. I think, like I said, I like it, and I do like I do appreciate the slow burn. I do like the setup. I like the premise. I think more the idea, though, of it kind of being like, is it supernatural or not? I think that alone is like a 1.5 off on this film. This could easily be like a 9 for me. But I think that question of like, is it or is it not? It's just totally unnecessary. I think if you left it up to the fact of them just being shitty people and them having a shitty experience out in the woods, and then what happens is because of their own accord, though maybe slightly hinted that it's karmic, like with the whole, like, are they going in circles? Don't make it like, are they intentionally, unintentionally going in circles, or is it because of like spooky nature?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is just like, don't fucking do that. Just make,
Right.
just make it so you question, like, are they actually going in circles or are they not? Just leave it at that, and then you can decide, well, maybe they were because, they're not thinking right. The fact that you throw in the fact that maybe they're not, that's nature and not themselves. I think that's it's negative to me. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I like the supernatural aspect. I give it an 8.5. I really do. I like that it has that duality of the theme, and I like, it's just my interpretation of it. But I like that there's that ability to either say, yeah, it's just psychological. It was mental issues that they were dealing with within their stressful situation, or you could also say, there was some sort of supernatural nature element to it.
But at the same time, like I said, I don't think it's necessary. Like, you don't have to have him like littering and be like, oh, Mother Nature's gonna fuck you. Because again, if they didn't go out into the woods for their vacation, if they went to like a hotel and whatever, they're still probably gonna come to the same crossroads of like, we don't like each other.
True.
And we're not meant for each other.
True.
They're still gonna find out at the end of the day. When they're, like, sitting poolside drinking a margarita, like, you know what, I fucking hate you, and I fucking hate you, too. It's not like if they actually did what, Marcia wanted to do, and do that, like, they would have been like, wow,
yeah,
what a wonderful life. Because you already see even before they go out into the, on their long weekend into the nature, that they don't,
yeah,
things aren't going well, so...
No, I'm not arguing that point, but I like that aspect of it. I like the supernatural elements. I think that it adds eeriness to it that you get from, just even the dugong creeping up the sand, or the crying.
But do you think like what they like are as people is like deserving of their fates?
Deserving of like after what they do to nature? Is that what you mean?
Nature and themselves.
Do I think they're deserving of it?
Because obviously you're not supposed to feel sympathy for them.
Yeah.
Because they are shitty people, but at the end of the day, do they deserve to...
No, I mean, I don't know that you're even supposed to feel like they deserve it, but it's more of like the moralistic side of it. Like,
well, they're obviously getting punished, though, so, because...
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I'm not saying they're good, and I'm not saying they're likable, but I'm saying at the end of the day, it's not like what they did to each other and to nature throughout their experience is worthy of what their karma.
No, but I wouldn't say that that's a necessary outcome of like when you watch a movie and people die in it. Like, I'm not going to watch any of the Friday the 13th sequels and think like, well, they had sex, so they obviously deserve to be killed off by Jason. But at the same time, you also, I mean, they don't have to be deserving of it for it to happen and there still be a moralistic aspect of it. Like in this case, you don't have to think like, well, throwing a bottle into the water equates to like, they need to be murdered.
Well,
but
I mean,
you can also see how it's kind of like an exaggerated fable.
Well, that's true. But I was gonna say, if you are kind of going moralistic, you kind of have to make the punishment on like a sort of even keel. You don't really have to worry about that in the Friday the 13th movies because it's not like they're being punished. Jason's just a serial killer. So.
True. But they are being punished in a way. They're being punished for all of the camp counselors before them who had sex and then ignored Jason drowning in Crystal Lake. So it is even that's when Jason's mother is in his head, she's saying punish. So I mean, it's not really an important aspect of it. Like, we just disagree. I like the supernatural element to it. You don't. That's totally fine. It just is different. But I think, again, that just shows how Long Weekend works for different people too. Like, if you like the supernatural aspect, I think you'll really, really enjoy watching Long Weekend and see how that comes out in the film. If you don't, though, you can also kind of ignore it and just not really see it as a supernatural aspect and just say, no, this actually just happened to them. They're not, they were not well adapted to the wild at that point. They tried to do something that they really weren't good at. Just like when you see the van that has apparently rolled into the ocean. They had seen the van on the beach and then it was in the ocean. You could see that as those people suck too. And they, it's not a hospitable place for them to be in. So, they messed up, they rolled in the ocean. I think that you can see it both ways. That's why there's the versatility to Long Weekend, where I think multiple viewers will enjoy it and find different things to like about it.
We'll see with that one, and then you get to see the campsite being abandoned.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that is obviously hinting more toward a supernatural thing, because you don't know their circumstances. They could have been just fucking good,
True.
regular old camp, family camping,
like a cursed area.
Yeah, like I would. Yeah, no, you're right. I would lean more to like the supernatural and the cursed area type thing, because there was obviously like a children's like tea party set up for like a kid.
Yeah, but again, though, you could also
so you don't really know what that There's obviously they could have not been shitty people, and that's just.
You could also make the assumption though that maybe something happened there where he had a guy that killed his wife and then pushed the van into the, you don't know. So like, again, you could see it as supernatural. You could see it as not. It just, it's another event that happened that, or maybe they're going crazy still and he didn't actually see the van and it was always in the water.
Yeah.
Or, you don't know. So you can see it any way that you want to. And I think it's not in the case where it's like, I don't know what's going on. This is totally open to interpretation. It's open to interpretation, but within a limited sense. Like you can gather a couple different things from it. So I like that quite a bit. So, anything else you want to add about Long Weekend before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's.
It's really an enjoyable film. I encourage everybody to check it out if you have not seen it before. It's not one of those films that you really come across that often. But Synapse Films has released it on Blu-ray. Looks really nice.
It was very
very good transfer. Obviously, it's an older film, so it has quite a bit of grain in it at times within the exterior shots. But looks really good for its age. So check that out from Synapse Films. Next week, it's going to be Alien Day on 4/26. And we are actually recording on Alien Day because we always record on Wednesdays for a Thursday podcast release. So we are covering Aliens.
Ryan's never seen it.
I have never seen Aliens. It's kind of a blasphemous statement. I've seen Alien and I've seen Alien 3. And I said I've seen Alien 3 like 15 times because I used to watch it over and over again. Even though it's really not a good movie. It's really, really not a good movie. But I've never seen Aliens, so it'll be interesting because Aliens is actually the inspiration for Alien Day because it takes place on 4/26. LV 4/26, but still 4/26. That's where Alien Day gets its name.
What will we think? Is it going to be like Terminator, where we think Terminator is better than Terminator 2?
That's really an interesting thing because I've heard a lot of different things about Alien and Aliens. They're very different films.
Well, like I said, like Terminator and Terminator 2, different film. Though Terminator 2, both done by James Cameron. Ridley Scott obviously did Alien. James Cameron did Aliens, which Aliens more horror, Aliens action. So we're gonna see. Are we going to fall on like the same
exactly
spectrum?
I'm really curious to see because I like Alien a lot. And obviously I adhere more towards horror. But I'm curious to see how I feel about Aliens. I know a lot of people like Aliens more than Alien. So
Most do.
yeah, it's going to be interesting because I've never seen it before. So
Like I said, it's like Terminator and Terminator 2. Most people love Terminator 2. Think it's better than Terminator. And we'll see if that's the case with Alien and Aliens.
I'm excited. I'm excited to finally see it. So we're going to do that next week for Alien Day.
Are you sure you don't want to do like Alien vs. Predator?
No, I saw that in theaters. I don't need to see it again. Yeah. No, we don't need to do that one. We'll do the traditional Aliens. We'll go with that one. But I'm
Prometheus.
Excited. Well, I am interested in seeing Prometheus.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. But
I didn't even know it was a prequel until like after it came out, and I saw like reviews.
I think that probably a lot of people were disappointed with it just because it was not another Alien. You know what I mean? It doesn't have the xenomorphs in it like some would expect from an Alien film. And I think that's the source of disappointment. Like, if you go in expecting to see a lot of xenomorph action within that film, then you're going to be disappointed because it's a prequel to the xenomorphs and what happens in Alien. So, yeah, of course, you're not going to see all of that happen. You're going to see the events that lead up to it.
I mean, I like I said, we're getting a little off topic, but I didn't really watch the trailers for Prometheus, but after it came out and I saw reviews, I'm like, oh, it's a sequel to Alien? I mean, a prequel to Alien? I have the same kind of question that I have with like most of these. So I was like, why 20 years are you like? Why bother? Just leave enough alone.
True.
So that's where for me when it comes to that film, I have like no interest in seeing it because it's like
I'm interested in seeing it. I also want to see Alien Covenant when that comes out, but I don't know.
I mean, I did see the poster for that. That looks pretty.
It does look pretty cool because it actually goes back to the xenomorphs.
Yeah.
So
it looked like more of a horror route.
It does, yeah.
Because I saw on Facebook there's like they had like a group thing of like posters for like upcoming horror films.
Yeah.
And, like the new Halloween film. And like that looks awesome. And like Saw 8's poster actually doesn't look like dog shit.
Yeah.
And one of them was like Alien Covenant. I'm like, that actually looks.
Yeah, I think the poster does look good. Does it justice? So,
but we'll see.
We'll see. Next week we'll do Aliens. Excited. All right, time for some administrative duties. You can check us out on iTunes. Obviously, it's where everybody pretty much always listens to their podcast episodes. We're on there. Subscribe and review us. We really appreciate it. We're also on Stitcher, so you can subscribe on there and give us a review. We're up on SoundCloud as well. That's where our episodes air first. You can catch us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Like us, comment, do what you do on Facebook. We're on Twitter @Blood and Black Rum. You can tweet us and hopefully you'll retweet all of our episodes so everybody finds us on there. We have an email address, bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you want to see on the podcast. We always try to work in advance with what movies we're going to cover, but if you have suggestions, please let us know. And we also have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. That helps keep the podcast running. That's a donation, and it's a donation every month. So keep that in mind. So if you donate $1, it's $1 a month, every month. But anything that you can throw our way, we really appreciate. We also have some specific targets. If you donate that set amount, then we'll do some special things for you. So we're like cookers in that way. So check out the Patreon, patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. Donate what you can if you can, but we will always do this for free. So thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with our Aliens episode for Alien Day. Take care.
See you later.